The word help trembled across the white napkin in faint blue ink. Emma Taylor's hand shook as she wrote it, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain everyone in the crowded restaurant could hear it. She was desperate, more desperate than she'd ever been in her 32 years of life. The upscale Italian restaurant, Billionaire, with its soft lighting and classical music, was the last place she had expected to find herself tonight, especially under these circumstances. But here she was, dressed in the crisp black and white uniform of a waitress, serving tables while her 6-year-old daughter Lily was at home with a high fever, and their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. Emma tucked a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear and took a deep breath. 3 more hours until her shift ended. 3 more hours of smiling, taking orders, and pretending everything was fine when her world was crumbling around her. The eviction notice taped to her apartment door this morning had been the final blow. 30 days to come up with 3 months of back rent or find somewhere else to live. But where? With what money? Table 15 needs attention, Marcus, the floor manager, said as he brushed past her. VIP, don't screw this up, Taylor. Emma nodded, squaring her shoulders. Marcus had only hired her 2 weeks ago as a favor to his cousin, who knew Emma from the community college, where she was taking night classes in business administration. She couldn't afford to lose this job, not when it was currently her only source of income after being laid off from the accounting firm where she'd worked for 5 years. She approached table 15, a secluded corner booth, partially hidden by a decorative pillar. A single man occupied the space meant for 4, his attention focused on the laptop open before him. Even without looking up, he emanated an aura of importance. His tailored navy suit probably cost more than her monthly rent, and the platinum watch glinting on his wrist could likely pay for Lily's medical bills 10 times over. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Billionaire. May I get you something to drink while you look at the menu? Emma managed to keep her voice steady, professional. The man glanced up, and Emma found herself looking into the most intense grey eyes she'd ever seen. For a split second, she forgot to breathe. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps in his late 30s, with dark hair peppered with silver at the temples, and a strong jawline covered in carefully maintained stubble. Macallan 18, neat, he said, his voice deep and smooth. He didn't smile, didn't really look at her beyond a brief assessment, before returning his attention to his laptop. Right away, sir. Emma turned away, clutching her order pad tightly. As she made her way to the bar, her phone vibrated in her pocket. She shouldn't check it. Marcus had strict rules about phone use during shifts, but it might be about Lily. Ducking behind the service station, she pulled it out. The text from Mrs. Peterson sent a chill down her spine. Lily's fever 103.2, getting worse. Should I call ambulance? Emma's hands went numb. They couldn't afford an ambulance or another emergency room visit. The bills from the last one were still piling up, adding to the mountain of debt that had accumulated since her ex-husband Ryan had walked out 18 months ago, taking their savings and leaving her with nothing but his unpaid credit card bills and a broken promise to send child support. She texted back quickly, giving her Tylenol, try cool bath, we'll call in 10. Returning her phone to her pocket, Emma moved to the bar with mechanical steps, ordered the Macallan 18 and tried to organize her thoughts. She needed help. Real help. Not just a temporary bandage on a wound that kept growing deeper. That's when the idea came to her. It was ridiculous, desperate, probably futile, but she was out of options. Emma grabbed a clean napkin from the bar, pulled out her pen, and quickly wrote "help" in the corner. She had no plan beyond that single word, just a vague, wild hope that anyone might see it and understand. The bartender slid the whiskey toward her. Table 15, right? That's Nathan Reed. Who? Emma asked, distracted. The bartender looked at her like she'd asked who the president was. Nathan Reed, Reed Enterprises, the tech billionaire. Guy practically owns half of Boston now. Emma vaguely recognized the name from news headlines. Some tech genius who'd made billions before turning 30 and now invested in everything from real estate to medical research. The kind of person who inhabited a different universe from struggling single mothers. Right, she said, placing the napkin on the serving tray alongside the whiskey. Returning to table 15, Emma set down the drink, positioning the napkin with "help" visible beside it. Are you ready to order, sir? Or do you need a few more minutes? Nathan Reed didn't look up. Just the drink for now. Emma hesitated, wanting to draw attention to the napkin but unsure how. Before she could figure it out, another server crashed into her from behind. Emma stumbled forward, nearly falling into the table. The whiskey glass tipped, spilling amber liquid across the white tablecloth and onto Reed's laptop. "I'm so sorry," Emma gasped, mortified as she grabbed napkins to stem the flow. In her haste, she covered the napkin with the plea for help. Reed jumped up, lifting his laptop. His expression darkened. "What the hell?" "It was an accident," Emma said, frantically dabbing at the spill. "I'm so sorry. I'll get you another drink right away. On the house, of course." "The drink is the least of my concerns," he said coldly, examining his laptop for damage. Marcus appeared at her side instantly. "Mr. Reed, I apologize profusely for this incident. Please, let me move you to another table. Your entire meal will be complimentary tonight." Reed waved a hand dismissively. "It's fine, the laptop seems unharmed." His eyes narrowed as he looked at Emma. "Just bring me another drink and a new tablecloth." "Of course," Marcus said smoothly. "Emma, clean this up immediately, then take your break." Emma knew what take your break meant. She was in trouble. As she cleaned the table and reset it with a fresh tablecloth, her phone vibrated again. Another text from Mrs. Peterson. "Lily asking for you. Fever same. She's crying." Tears threatened, but Emma blinked them back. She couldn't cry here, couldn't lose this job, couldn't fall apart when Lily needed her to be strong. After bringing Reed a fresh drink, Emma retreated to the employee bathroom. She splashed cold water on her face and called Mrs. Peterson, speaking in hushed tones. "If her fever doesn't break in an hour, take her to the ER, Emma said, hating every word. "I'll meet you there as soon as I can." Ending the call, Emma leaned against the sink, desperation rising like a tide. She had $400 to her name. The rent was $3,000 overdue. Lily needed medicine they couldn't afford, might need a hospital they couldn't pay for, and Emma was stuck serving drinks to billionaires who wouldn't even notice if they left a tip equal to her weekly salary. When she returned to the floor, Emma was surprised to see Nathan Reed still at his table, now eating an appetizer. He gestured for her to approach. "I believe this belongs to you," he said, holding up a napkin between two fingers. Emma's heart stopped. It was the napkin with "help" written on it. In the chaos of cleaning the spill, she must have missed it. I don't," she stammered. Reed studied her with those penetrating grey eyes. "You wrote this." It wasn't a question. Emma couldn't speak, couldn't move. This was it. He would complain to Marcus, and she'd be fired on the spot. Instead, Reed folded the napkin carefully and slipped it into his jacket pocket. "Finish your shift, then meet me at the bar next door. I think we should talk." Before Emma could respond, her phone vibrated again. This time, when she surreptitiously checked it, the message from Mrs. Peterson made her blood run cold. "Ambulance coming. Lily having trouble breathing." "I can't," Emma whispered, all pretense of professionalism forgotten. "My daughter, your daughter." Reed's expression changed, something unreadable flickering across his features. "What about her?" Emma didn't care anymore about her job or propriety or the fact that this man was a VIP customer. "She's sick. Really sick. I have to go." She turned to leave, prepared to face Marcus's wrath later, when Nathan Reed's voice stopped her. "Wait. I'm coming with you." Emma stared at Nathan Reed, certain she had misheard him. "Excuse me?" "I said I'm coming with you," he repeated, already closing his laptop and sliding it into a sleek leather bag. His voice held a firmness that suggested he wasn't accustomed to being questioned. "But why would you do that? You don't even know me." Emma glanced nervously toward Marcus, who was watching them with suspicious eyes from across the restaurant. Reed stood, straightening his suit jacket with one fluid motion. "Let's just say I recognize desperation when I see it." He pulled out his wallet, dropped several $100 bills on the table, far more than his barely touched meal warranted, and nodded toward the exit. "Your daughter needs you. Are we going, or would you prefer to continue questioning my motives?" Emma hesitated only a moment longer before untying her apron. She had no logical reason to trust this stranger, this billionaire who'd somehow inserted himself into the worst night of her life. But logic had little place in a mother's panic. She tossed her apron behind the service station and headed for the door without looking back. "Taylor, where do you think you're going?" Marcus's voice cut through the ambient restaurant noise. "Your shift ends at 11. "Family emergency," she called over her shoulder, pushing through the heavy wooden doors into the cool September night. She'd deal with the consequences tomorrow if she still had a job to deal with. Outside, a sleek black Audi idled at the curb. Reed opened the passenger door for her. "Get in. Where are we headed?" "My apartment first. Oak Ridge Apartments on Westfield Street. Mrs. Peterson said they're taking Lily to Boston Children's." Emma's voice cracked as the reality of the situation hit her. "I need to be there." Reed nodded to the driver, a broad-shouldered man with a buzz cut who hadn't bothered to introduce himself. "You heard her, Jack." As the car pulled smoothly into traffic, Emma clutched her phone, waiting for updates from Mrs. Peterson. The silence in the luxury vehicle felt oppressive until Reed broke it. "Your daughter, Lily, is it? How old is she?" 6, Emma answered, surprised by the personal question. "She turned 6 in July." Reed nodded, his expression inscrutable. "And her father?" Emma tensed. "Not in the picture." She offered nothing more, and Reed didn't press. "What's wrong with her, medically speaking?" Emma leaned her head against the cool window, watching the city lights blur past. "She has asthma, severe. Usually it's managed with medication, but lately she trailed off, not wanting to delve into the financial straits that had led her to ration Lily's preventive medications, stretching a month's supply into 2, sometimes 3. She caught a cold that went to her chest, then fever. Now it's spiraling." Reed pulled out his phone, tapped something, then looked back at her. "I know some people at Boston Children's. The head of pulmonology owes me a favor." Emma blinked. "Why would you do that? Why are you helping me?" For the first time, something resembling emotion crossed his face, a flicker of pain so brief Emma thought she might have imagined it. "Let's just say I understand what it's like to feel helpless when someone you love is suffering." Before she could respond, the car pulled up to her apartment building, a weathered 5-story structure that looked even shabbier juxtaposed against the luxury vehicle. Emma nearly leaped from the car, running toward the building with Reed following at a measured pace. As they approached her 3rd-floor apartment, the sound of sirens grew louder. Emma rounded the corner of her hallway to see paramedics wheeling a small stretcher through her open door. On it lay Lily, her face partially obscured by an oxygen mask, her normally vibrant blonde curls damp with sweat against the pillow. "Lily!" Emma cried, rushing forward. Her daughter's eyes fluttered open, focusing with difficulty. "Mommy!" She wheezed beneath the mask, reaching out a small hand. Emma grasped it, walking alongside the stretcher as the paramedics continued toward the elevator. "I'm here, baby. Mommy's here. Everything's going to be okay." The lie tasted bitter. Nothing was okay. Not Lily's labored breathing, not the mounting medical bills, not the eviction notice, not the fact that a stranger, a billionaire, was standing in her hallway witnessing her life falling apart. Mrs. Peterson, a silver-haired woman in her 70s, clutched Emma's arm as they passed. "Her breathing got so bad, Emma, I had to call them." "You did the right thing," Emma assured her, though the thought of another ambulance bill made her stomach churn. "Thank you for staying with her." "I'll lock up," Mrs. Peterson promised, her kind eyes widening as she noticed Nathan Reed standing behind Emma. She opened her mouth, closed it, then simply nodded. In the elevator, Reed kept a respectful distance while the paramedics continued monitoring Lily's vital signs. One of them, a young man with a kind face, glanced at Emma. "You're riding with us?" "Yes," Emma answered without hesitation. She looked back at Reed, uncertain what to say. "Thank you. Goodbye? See you never?" He solved the problem for her. "I'll meet you at the hospital." The ride to Boston Children's Hospital was a blur of sirens and fear. Emma held Lily's hand the entire way, whispering reassurances while the paramedics worked. Her daughter's small chest rose and fell with visible effort, each breath a battle. Emma had never felt more terrified or more useless. At the hospital, everything happened with dizzying speed. Her team was waiting for them, unusual, Emma thought distantly, for a non-critical emergency admission, and Lily was whisked away to a treatment room with Emma trailing behind. "Mrs. Taylor," a doctor approached her, hand extended. "I'm Dr. Winters, head of pediatric pulmonology. I'll be overseeing your daughter's care." Emma shook his hand automatically. "It's Ms. And how did you know we were coming?" She hadn't missed the looks exchanged between staff members, the whispered Reed Foundation case that had preceded their arrival. Dr. Winters smiled. "Let's focus on Lily right now. From her records, I see she has moderate to severe asthma with several previous hospitalizations." The next hour passed in a flurry of treatments, tests, and medical jargon. Lily was stabilized, her breathing eased by powerful medications delivered through a nebulizer. They moved her to a private room, another unexpected luxury that sent Emma's anxiety spiraling as she calculated the additional cost. "We'd like to keep her overnight for observation," Dr. Winters explained, making notes in Lily's chart. "Her oxygen levels are better, but not where I'd like to see them." Emma nodded numbly. "Of course, whatever she needs." As Dr. Winters left, Emma collapsed into the chair beside Lily's bed. Her daughter was finally sleeping peacefully, her breathing still audible but no longer the desperate struggle it had been. Emma reached out to brush a curl from Lily's forehead, marveling at how tiny and vulnerable she looked in the hospital bed. "Excuse me, Miss Taylor," a nurse appeared at the door. "There's someone here to see you. A Mr. Reed?" Emma had almost forgotten about him. "I'll be right back, Lilybug," she whispered, though her daughter couldn't hear her. In the hallway, Nathan Reed stood with his hands in his pockets, looking oddly out of place despite his confident posture. The harsh hospital lighting accentuated the sharp planes of his face and the shadows beneath his eyes that Emma hadn't noticed before. "How is she?" he asked without preamble. "Better. Stable. They want to keep her overnight." Emma crossed her arms, suddenly aware of her wrinkled waitress uniform and the exhaustion that must be evident on her face. "Look, I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you. I don't know how I can ever repay you, but—" Reed held up a hand. "I don't want repayment. Then what do you want?" The question came out sharper than Emma intended, years of hard-learned cynicism surfacing. In her experience, no one did anything for nothing, especially not men with power and money. Instead of answering directly, Reed walked to the large window overlooking the city lights. 8 years ago, my niece died from complications of cystic fibrosis. She was 7. His voice was flat, controlled, but Emma didn't miss the tension in his shoulders. "I had all the money in the world, the best doctors, the best treatments. It wasn't enough." He turned back to face her. "When I saw help written on that napkin, I almost ignored it. People want things from me all the time, but something in your eyes—" He paused. "I founded the Reed Children's Health Initiative after Sophia died. We provide assistance to families struggling with pediatric chronic illnesses." Emma blinked, pieces falling into place. The waiting medical team, the head of pulmonology, the private room. "So this is what then, charity?" She couldn't keep the edge from her voice, pride warring with desperation. Reed's expression hardened slightly. "This is me making sure a sick child gets the care she needs. Call it whatever you want." Emma sighed, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "I'm sorry, that was ungrateful. It's just been a lot." "I understand." He hesitated, then added, "The foundation will cover all of Lily's medical expenses, retroactive to her diagnosis. And there's a program for ongoing medication coverage." The relief that flooded Emma was so intense, it made her dizzy. She grabbed the wall for support. "Why?" she whispered. "Why us?" Nathan Reed's eyes met hers, and for a moment the billion-dollar facade slipped, revealing something raw and human underneath. "Because sometimes, Ms. Taylor, even the people who seem to have everything are just looking for a way to help." 3 weeks had passed since that fateful night at Billionaire. 3 weeks of changes Emma could never have anticipated. Lily had recovered fully, her new medication regimen fully covered by the Reed Foundation, keeping her asthma well controlled. Emma had not returned to the restaurant. Marcus had sent a terse text the morning after her abrupt departure, informing her that her services were no longer required. Under normal circumstances, losing her job would have been catastrophic. But these were not normal circumstances. Nathan Reed, true to his word, had arranged for the foundation to cover not only Lily's medical expenses, but also to provide 3 months of rent assistance while Emma got back on her feet. The eviction notice had disappeared from her door, and for the first time in years, Emma could breathe without the crushing weight of immediate financial ruin pressing down on her chest. Today, Emma sat across from Diane Foster, the Reed Foundation's program director, in a sleek downtown office that made Emma feel distinctly out of place in her modest blouse and slacks, the nicest outfit she owned. "Your application for our family stability program has been approved," Diane said, sliding a folder across the polished table. Her smile was professional, but warm. "In addition to continued medical coverage for Lily, the foundation will provide educational support and a living stipend while you complete your business degree. Emma stared at the folder, unable to fully process what she was hearing. I don't understand. I never applied for any program. Diane's perfectly groomed eyebrows rose slightly. Mr. Reed submitted the application on your behalf. He was quite insistent that your situation met our criteria. She paused, studying Emma with newfound interest. That's unusual. Nathan doesn't typically involve himself in individual cases. A flutter of unease rippled through Emma. In the week since the hospital, she had seen Nathan Reed exactly twice. Once during a brief visit to check on Lily the day after her admission, and again a week later when he'd stopped by their apartment with a children's book about a girl who becomes an astronaut despite her asthma. Both encounters had been brief, cordial, and entirely appropriate. He had never once mentioned submitting applications on her behalf or taking a personal interest in their future. I'll need to think about this, Emma said carefully. Diane looked surprised. Most families in your position would jump at this opportunity. Most families in my position wouldn't question their good fortune, Emma acknowledged. But I've learned to be cautious about things that seem too good to be true. After leaving the foundation offices, Emma walked along Boston Harbor, her mind churning. The folder Diane had given her detailed a comprehensive support program that would essentially solve every major problem in her life. School fully funded, living expenses covered, Lily's health care guaranteed, even a housing allowance to move them to a better neighborhood closer to the university. It was everything she had ever wanted, and nothing she had earned. The question was, why? Why had a billionaire she'd met by chance decided to change their lives? What did Nathan Reed really want? Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed Boston Children's Hospital. Emma's heart clenched as she answered. Ms. Taylor, this is Dr. Winters. I was reviewing Lily's latest test results and there's something I'd like to discuss. Could you come in tomorrow morning? Is something wrong? Emma asked, her mind already racing through worst-case scenarios. Nothing urgent, Dr. Winters assured her, but I'd prefer to discuss it in person. The next morning, Emma sat in Dr. Winters' office while Lily was entertained by a child life specialist in the playroom down the hall. The doctor's expression was serious as he pulled up Lily's file on his computer. When Lily was admitted 3 weeks ago, we ran a standard panel of tests, he began. Some of the results flagged anomalies that warranted further investigation. We've completed that process now, and I wanted to discuss our findings. Emma gripped the arms of her chair. What kind of anomalies? Dr. Winters turned the screen so Emma could see it, though the medical terminology meant little to her. Lily has some unusual genetic markers associated with her particular type of asthma. It's a rare variant that typically shows up in very specific family lines. Meaning? Meaning it's hereditary but not from your side. Dr. Winters looked at her carefully. Ms. Taylor, does Lily's father have a family history of respiratory conditions? Emma shook her head slowly. Ryan was perfectly healthy as far as I know. No asthma in his family. Dr. Winters frowned slightly. That's surprising. This genetic marker is quite distinctive and follows paternal lines almost exclusively. A cold feeling settled in Emma's stomach. What are you saying exactly? I'm not saying anything definitive, Dr. Winters backtracked, just that it's unusual. We'd normally expect to see this marker in the father's medical history. Emma nodded numbly, her mind racing. Ryan had been Lily's father in every way that mattered, present for her birth, listed on her birth certificate, loving her for the first years of her life before walking away. The possibility that he wasn't her biological father had never crossed Emma's mind, except there had been that one night, the terrible fight with Ryan 6 months before their wedding, the bar where she'd gone to clear her head, the handsome stranger she'd talked with for hours, whose name she'd never learned, whose face had become blurry in her memory, the mistake she'd never told anyone about, buried so deep she'd almost convinced herself it hadn't happened. Ms. Taylor, are you all right? Dr. Winters was looking at her with concern. Fine, Emma managed, just processing. After collecting Lily and returning home, Emma sat on her sofa, staring at the business card Nathan Reed had given her in case of emergencies. She hadn't called the private number, had told herself she wouldn't unless Lily truly needed something, but now questions swirled in her mind, connections forming that seemed impossible, yet somehow made a terrible kind of sense. Nathan's inexplicable interest in them, his immediate response to her plea for help, the way he'd looked at Lily in the hospital with an expression Emma couldn't quite place, the rare genetic marker, It couldn't be. The odds were astronomical, but what if? Before she could talk herself out of it, Emma dialed the number. Reed. His voice was clipped, businesslike. "It's Emma Taylor," she said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "We need to talk." 3 hours later, Emma sat across from Nathan Reed in a private room at an upscale restaurant in Back Bay, a location he'd chosen that offered both discretion and a public setting. Lily was with Mrs. Peterson for the evening, happily engaged in their weekly baking session. "I appreciate you meeting me," Emma began, her hands clasped tightly around her water glass. "I had an interesting conversation with Dr. Winters today about Lily's genetic markers." Something flickered across Reed's face. Caution, perhaps. And he mentioned a rare genetic variant, paternally inherited. Emma watched him carefully, which is odd, because Lily's father, my ex-husband, has no history of respiratory issues. Reed remained impassive. "Medical genetics can be complicated." "Yes," Emma agreed. "Almost as complicated as a billionaire taking a sudden interest in a waitress and her sick child after seeing a plea for help scribbled on a napkin." The silence between them stretched, taut and electric. "What are you asking me, Ms. Taylor?" Reed's voice was low, controlled. Emma took a deep breath. 7 years ago, the Harborview Hotel bar, a woman upset about her fiancé, drowning her sorrows. A man traveling for business, keeping her company. Reed's expression changed subtly, a brief widening of the eyes, the only indication that her words had hit their mark. "You remember," Emma said. It wasn't a question. "I remember meeting a woman," he acknowledged carefully. "I didn't know her name, she didn't know mine. We talked for hours. She was beautiful, intelligent, conflicted. And then we made a mistake," he said simply. "Or what she clearly considered a mistake. She left abruptly. I never saw her again." He paused. "Until 3 weeks ago when she wrote 'help' on a napkin." Emma felt lightheaded. "You knew? All this time you knew who I was?" Reed shook his head. "Not at first. Not at the restaurant. But at the hospital when I saw Lily." He trailed off. "She has my mother's eyes. The exact shape, the exact shade of blue. I convinced Dr. Winters to run a comparative genetic panel. I had to know." "Without my permission?" Emma's voice rose slightly before she caught herself. "I had to know," he repeated. "Wouldn't you, in my position?" Emma stared at him, anger and confusion warring within her. "So all this, the foundation help, the program, everything, it was what? Guilty conscience, secret paternity plan?" "It was me trying to do the right thing," Reed said, a hint of frustration breaking through his composed exterior. "When I realized who you might be, who Lily might be to me, I couldn't just walk away." "The way my ex-husband did?" Emma challenged. "I didn't know about her." For the first time, real emotion surfaced in Reed's voice. "I had no idea. If I had known—" "What?" Emma interrupted. "What would you have done? Swooped in with your billions, demanded a role in her life, paid us off to keep quiet?" Reed's jaw tightened. "I would have taken responsibility." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Emma felt tears threatening and blinked them back furiously. "I need proof," she said finally. "Real proof. Not just suspicions and genetic markers and your mother's eyes." Reed nodded once. "That's fair. I've already scheduled a paternity test. The results should be available within a week. And if it's positive, what then?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. For a moment, the billionaire facade fell away completely, revealing a man facing a possibility that clearly terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. "Then," Nathan Reed said quietly, "we figure out what's best for Lily. Together." The envelope sat unopened on Emma's kitchen table, the Reed Enterprises logo embossed in the corner. Inside was the answer to a question that would forever change 3 lives. Emma stared at it, her coffee going cold beside her as morning sunlight streamed through the apartment windows. Lily was at school, her first week back after the latest health scare, happily rejoining her first-grade class with her new rescue inhaler safely tucked in her backpack. She had no idea that today might redefine everything she knew about her family, about who she was. The knock at the door startled Emma from her thoughts. She knew who it would be before she even checked the peephole. Nathan Reed stood in the hallway, impeccably dressed as always, though Emma noticed the subtle signs of strain around his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping well either. "You got it," he said when she opened the door, nodding toward the envelope on the table. "Yesterday afternoon." Emma stepped aside to let him in. "I wanted to wait until Lily was at school." Nathan entered, his presence somehow making the modest apartment seem smaller. They had seen each other several times over the past week, carefully orchestrated meetings in public places where they had talked cautiously around the enormity of what might be true, discussing Lily's health, her interests, her future needs, but never directly addressing what would happen if the test confirmed their suspicions. "Have you opened it?" he asked, making no move toward the envelope. Emma shook her head. "I've been sitting here for an hour trying to work up the courage." Nathan's expression softened slightly. "Would you prefer to do this alone? I can go if—" "No," Emma said quickly. "Whatever this says, we both need to hear it together." They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. Emma reached for the envelope with trembling fingers, broke the seal, and removed the single sheet of paper inside. Her eyes scanned the clinical language, medical terminology, and statistical probabilities until they landed on the conclusion at the bottom of the page. "Probability of paternity 99.99998%, she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Emma saw something she hadn't expected. Not triumph or satisfaction, but vulnerability and fear. "So it's true," he said. "I have a daughter." Emma nodded, still processing the reality now confirmed in black and white. "Lily has a father. A biological father." The silence that followed was heavy with unasked questions. It was Nathan who finally broke it. "What do we tell her?" Emma set the paper down carefully. "I don't know. She's 6. She barely remembers Ryan. To her, Daddy is just someone who left." She looked up at Nathan, studying his face, the face that had contributed to her daughter's features in ways she had never recognized until now. "What do you want?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. "What do I want?" "Yes," Emma persisted, "now that you know for certain she's yours. What do you want?" Nathan stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. "I want to know her," he said finally. "I want to be part of her life. I've missed 6 years. Her first words, first steps, first day of school. I can't get those back, but I don't want to miss anything else." He paused, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that humanized him. "But I also don't want to disrupt her life or confuse her. This needs to be on your terms, Emma. You're her mother. You've been there for everything." Emma felt something shift inside her, the defensive wall she'd built over years of struggling alone, of being abandoned, of fighting to protect Lily from further hurt. For the first time, she allowed herself to consider that Nathan Reed might not be a threat to their fragile stability, but an ally in securing Lily's future. "We need to take it slow," she said. "For Lily's sake, no dramatic revelations, no sudden changes." She took a deep breath. "But yes, I think she deserves to know you and you deserve to know her." Relief washed over Nathan's features. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet," Emma cautioned. "This won't be simple, and there are complications." "Such as?" "Such as the fact that you've already inserted yourself into our lives through your foundation. How do we explain that? And what about your public profile? The minute Nathan Reed is seen spending time with a previously unknown 6-year-old girl, the speculation will be relentless." Nathan nodded, his expression turning serious. "I've been thinking about that. I have a house on Cape Cod, private, secluded. We could spend some time there, the 3 of us. Give Lily a chance to get to know me as a friend first, someone who cares about you both. Then, when the time feels right." "And your life in the spotlight, the media, the business commitments?" "I'll manage it," he said with the confidence of someone accustomed to bending circumstances to his will. "My private life has always been just that. Private. I've made sure of it." Emma studied him, weighing her daughter's future against the risks. "And the foundation support? I can't accept that now, not knowing what I know." "Why not?" Nathan challenged. "It's what any father should provide for his child." "Because I don't want your money," Emma said firmly. "I want your commitment. To Lily, not to easing your conscience through financial support." Something like respect flickered in Nathan's eyes. "Then what do you propose?" "I'll continue my degree on my own terms. You can help with Lily's medical expenses. That's your responsibility as her father. But the rest, I need to do that myself." Nathan studied her for a long moment. "You're not what I expected, Emma Taylor." "And what did you expect?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Someone who would see this situation as advantageous." Emma's laugh held little humor. "You mean someone who would be thrilled to discover her daughter's father is a billionaire? Who would immediately start planning how to benefit from that connection?" She shook her head. "I've spent 6 years teaching Lily that her value isn't determined by what she has or who her family is. I'm not about to undermine that lesson now." For the first time since she'd met him, Nathan Reed smiled. A genuine smile that transformed his features and hinted at the man behind the carefully constructed public persona. "I think," he said slowly, "that Lily is very fortunate in her mother." The Cape Cod house turned out to be a charming, sprawling beachfront property nestled among dunes and scrub pines. Far from the ostentatious mansion Emma had expected, it was a comfortable family home with weathered shingles, a wraparound porch, and windows that captured the Atlantic from every angle. 2 months had passed since the paternity test results. 2 months of careful, deliberate steps into uncharted territory. Nathan had begun as Mr. Reed, Mom's friend, who invited them for weekends at his beach house. Gradually, he had become Nathan, who built sandcastles with Lily, taught her to fly a kite, and listened with complete attention as she explained the intricate social dynamics of her first-grade class. Today, as Emma watched them from the porch, Nathan was teaching Lily how to skip stones across the calm morning water. Lily's delighted laugh carried on the breeze each time her stone managed a single skip before sinking. She looked healthy, happy, unburdened by the complexities the adults in her life were navigating. Mom, did you see?" Lily called, waving excitedly. "I did 3 skips." "I saw, sweetheart," Emma called back, smiling. "That's amazing." Nathan said something to Lily that Emma couldn't hear, and the little girl nodded enthusiastically before running up the beach toward the house. "Nathan says it's time for pancakes," Lily announced breathlessly as she reached the porch. "He promised blueberry ones with faces." "Did he now?" Emma raised an eyebrow as Nathan approached. "I didn't know billionaires made pancakes." Nathan grinned. "This one does, though I can't promise they'll be as good as yours." Over the past weeks, something unexpected had developed between them. Not romance, not exactly, but a partnership built on shared concern for Lily and growing mutual respect. Emma had watched as Nathan, despite his wealth and power, approached fatherhood with humility and genuine desire to learn. He asked questions, deferred to her experience, and never once attempted to override her parenting decisions with his resources. In the kitchen, the 3 of them fell into what had become a familiar routine. Lily measured ingredients with painstaking concentration, Nathan manned the stove, and Emma cut fresh fruit for topping. The domesticity of it should have felt strange. This billionaire in worn jeans and a Harvard t-shirt, making slightly lopsided pancakes while her daughter chatted about her classroom turtle, but somehow it didn't. After breakfast, while Lily was absorbed in a drawing project at the dining table, Nathan drew Emma out to the porch. "There's something I need to discuss with you," he said, his expression serious. "About Lily. About the future." Emma tensed slightly. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about how we move forward," Nathan began, "how we transition from this," he gestured between them, "to something more permanent, more defined." "Nathan, please, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I want to acknowledge Lily publicly as my daughter. I want to give her my name, or at least the option of it. I want to establish a trust for her future that no one, not even me, can access except for her benefit." Emma started to speak, but Nathan continued. "But more than any of that, I want to be a real father to her. Not just weekends at the beach house, not just the fun parts. All of it. School meetings, doctor appointments, nightmares, arguments about homework. I want to be there when she needs me, every time she needs me." His intensity took Emma aback. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we figure out a co-parenting arrangement that puts Lily first. Whether that means you both moving closer to Boston, or me getting a place near your apartment, or, Emma prompted when he hesitated. Nathan looked out at the ocean, then back at her. "Or we consider combining our lives more fully for Lily's sake." Emma's breath caught. "Are you proposing some kind of arrangement because of Lily?" "No," Nathan said firmly. "I'm saying I care about our daughter. And I've grown to care about you, Emma, more than I expected to. More than makes sense given how little time we've known each other. He looked away, uncharacteristically uncertain. I'm not proposing anything except that we keep moving forward, together, and see where this leads. For all three of us. Emma studied his face, no longer the cold, distant billionaire from table 15, but a man who had discovered fatherhood unexpectedly and embraced it with his whole heart. A man who had shown consistently that he valued her as Lily's mother and as a person in her own right. I think, she said slowly, that might be the most sensible suggestion you've made yet. Relief washed over Nathan's features, followed by something warmer. He reached for her hand and Emma allowed him to take it. "Mom, Nathan, come see my drawing," Lily called from inside. They turned together toward the house, toward their daughter, toward a future none of them could have imagined that night when a desperate plea on a napkin changed everything. "Coming, Lily Bug," Emma called back. And for the first time in years, she stepped forward without fear, her daughter's father beside her, the word help no longer a cry of desperation, but the answer she had found.